Hey guys, it's Olivia and welcome back to Living Literature. Thank you so much for all the love and support received in my last video, and if you have not seen it yet, feel free to head over to my channel to check it out. Well guys, as you've seen the title of today's video, we have a very new episode being brought to you live from SNL. It's Saturday Night Live.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
I have a very exciting video to bring to you guys today. This video is called My Favorite WEBTOONs Comics. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I would say that's 99.9% of you who watch, this is a very niche thing that I enjoy. I love WEBTOONs. I was put on by a friend who, I think it was Becca actually, who you've seen on the channel before, who introduced us to Hermione fan fiction. Becca's amazing. We love her.
You love her! Love, 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 love!
But anyways, she's the one I think who introduced me to WEBTOONs because she got me reading comics online. And now at first I was a little bit resistant because I was like, ooh, this is another niche level of essentially nerd that I didn't know if I was ready to partake in.
You're all so nerdy, it makes me physically ill.
It's like that part of me that always resists to play D&D, even though that I know that I would love it and that I would slay being Dragon Master, being a DM. You guys know that I would slay that. But it's like that part of me that resists to the thing that I know I'm going to enjoy because I know it's going to become another thing that my personality just digs its claws into and I can't let go. And when I discovered WEBTOONs, oh my gosh, it was a total game changer. So if you're unfamiliar with what WEBTOONs is essentially an app where creators, artists all around the world create comic books or comic strips that are released in episodes that you can either read for free, and it comes with the art and all the words and stuff, and with different stories and whatever, or you pay to get the advanced essentially subscription to see the episodes earlier than normal. And I will say that I am a buyer now. I spend a lot of coin on WEBTOONs, an abhorrent amount of coin, so much coin that it's honestly embarrassing how much coin I spend on WEBTOONs. Money! I pay for practically every single one of the comics that I read and that I'm going to share with you guys today because I'm a little whore who can't stop paying for that good kush.
We've got a real, actual problem here.
I'll say.
I'm sorry. I love it. And I have really fallen in love with WEBTOONs and the format. And it's fun to read these comics because every single week you get a new episode. And oh my gosh, I always am I envy the people who haven't started the comic before and they open it up and it's fresh and they've got episodes upon episodes upon episodes for free that they can just read and they don't have to pay for. And then you become like me and you get to the end and you're like, wait, I need to know what happens in the next episode and I have to pay for it now, or you have to wait a week until the episode gets released. And it's agony. It's agony waiting for these episodes.
Agony, far more painful than yours.
But as a reader, this is a new form. Graphic novels obviously have been around for a long time. Obviously people love comic books and things like that. I've never been a comic book girl per se. It's never been my thing. But I really have been after discovering WEBTOONs from my friend and getting into it, she's introduced me to some comics that she's found. I found some comics for her, and we'll go through and it's just fun. It's another thing to read, another story to fall in love with, another group of characters to fall in love with. And I love my big particulars with reading these graphic novels online is that I really need to be attached to the artwork and the way that the art looks. I just there are certain art styles that I really like, that I really, really vibe with, and there are some that I just don't. And of course the story has to be interesting, and these authors who create these stories write amazing and really well thought out stories that I'm I just fall in love with every single time. So some of these comics are very popular, some are a little bit more niche. I'm really excited to see if any of you have ever even been on WEBTOONs, or let alone checked out any of these comics that you may or may not have seen on rolling around on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But regardless, here I am today to recommend to you some of my favorite WEBTOONs comics from the app. So let's get started. The first one that I want to start with is one that I absolutely adore and love. I will tell you the name, but I do not remember the author of these ones specifically. So I'll be leaving that down here. I'll show an image of what it is, who the author is, so you can go give them credit online on WEBTOONs. But essentially the first one I want to recommend for you is called Love Me to Death. I love Me to Death. It is Fabulous. Essentially the premise is that there's a young necromancer living in this like Spain and like Spanish inspired city, very like Spaniard vibes, very like Spanish Inquisition, as I talked about a couple videos ago with the Familiar, but essentially very Spanish Inquisition vibes. There's like a holy priest and like a very like strong, heavy religious presence. They hate necromancers. But anyways, there's a young necromancer who is essentially like discovered in the city and asked to resurrect a body for a very wealthy person in the city. And essentially like when he resurrects this body, this girl, this corpse is resurrected, and she and the necromancer boy like have a connection.
Victor is married to a dead woman. I saw her. A corpse.
And it sounds kind of weird and kooky, but I absolutely fell in love with this comic. I loved the art style. I thought it was really interesting and really cute to watch and like see. And also just like the story itself is very compelling. I really enjoyed the writing for this story. It has gone into a romantic way that I like did not predict. I did not see it coming going in this direction. And I'll be honest, like I love it. I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to give away what the romantic direction was that I like fell in love with. But to be honest, like it was a direction that I've never like really gone before in my reading material. And it's one way that I was like, oh my gosh, this is really different. I'm not mad at it. I was like, okay, I really enjoy this actually. And I think it's really sweet and like really, really cute. So you'll have to like give me your own thoughts if you end up reading Love Me to Death. And let me know what you think of the romantic, like the romance going on in this comic. Of course, all my comics have romance in them because I won't read anything without romance because duh. But like Love Me to Death is really fun, very cute, has like a magic system, has a really cool background, and I really, really love it and recommend it for everyone. The next comic I want to recommend for you is more on the vibes of the dark academia. We have Nevermore. Again, I can't remember the author's name, but Nevermore. This is the comic. So fun. So gorgeous. I'm obsessed with Nevermore. Nevermore is essentially like the plot of the book is about, I will say it's about essentially like these two girls who get essentially washed up on this shore in this like almost like Alice in Wonderland, like Underland vibe place. And they're so confused about where to go. And they end up at this place called Nevermore Academy. Essentially, all the students in this academy are people who have died in crazy, horrible, awful ways. And they're all like young people, and they're all in this academy essentially to compete for the one person who essentially like finishes out the quote unquote year at Nevermore. One person will get to quote unquote graduate and enter the realm of the living, whoever is proven like most worthy to enter the realm of the living. Essentially these students, it's very much like Harry Potter vibes of like living in like dormitories and like having students. And I will say that like all of the Nevermore students have essentially like, I don't know what to call them, essentially like ghost familiar powers after their death that all have to do with something about the way that they died.
See that? He's dead, dead, another dead one, deady, deadified, two more dead, dead from the neck up, dead from the neck down. But that's life.
And so they're essentially able to shift into these like alternate like things or creatures when in distress or in dire situations. They can shift into these like new personas that have to do with the way that they died. And it's really interesting to see like the ways that they like, the way that how they shift, how the shift comes on, and also just like when it's used and who is able to shift and who has not been able to shift. The main focus is on a young woman named Lenore. She's amazing. I love her. Fabulous. It's so cute. She and this other girl, Annabelle, have a romance going on, and it's very sweet and very cute, but very like there's a ton of betrayal. It's
You betrayed me, and I know that you'll never feel sorry.
very dark, very gothic, very like emo vibes, very like goth emo vibes. The whole place is, and because the whole place is all about death. It's all about like how you died and like how you're going to essentially like who's going to be the one to go back alive, and like people form groups and alliances to like make it through the challenges that they're given to like see if they can excel and like gain points essentially to like in the eyes of the people who created Nevermore Academy and escape and like go back to the land of the living. It's all very spooky, all very haunting, all very fun. And I absolutely adore Nevermore. It is a great comic to read if you're wanting something a little more gothic. The next comic I want to recommend, and this is one that I like, I think it's like my favorite, it's practically my favorite comic that like I have ever read on WEBTOONs. I absolutely adore this one. I cannot recommend it enough. It is called Suitor Armor. Now, Suitor Armor is one that shot off in the webtoons community. Like, I feel like it started really small with a really small following, like when I was around when I started reading it, and now it is just grown and exploded. And like, I love Suitor Armor. Ugh, it's just like all the fantasy vibes that I love. Essentially, it takes place in like medieval times. We've got castles, knights, kings, queens, the whole bit. We have a young woman who is essentially, her name is Lucia. She's a lady's maid to a princess of a kingdom. And essentially, the princess of that kingdom is being betrothed to a king in a different kingdom. And so when Lucia goes there, she meets like all the people in this new kingdom, but one of the people that she meets, or I guess like things that she meets, is this suit of armor. His name is Modius. Love Modius. Modius is this massive piece of armor that the sorcerer of this kingdom has enchanted to essentially like fight and do combat and things like that. But she and Modius, Lucia and Modius, this suit of armor, that's why it's called Suitor Armor, but this suit of armor like essentially like form a connection and like bond. And it's really, really cool. It has a really cool concept about fairies and the fae and elves and like creatures that live in this kingdom. Like there's a lot of like politics that go on with that. It's like very much like the medieval, like true fantasy vibes that like everyone wants to see. Of course, we've got romance, and of course it's so good. Oh my gosh. And a couple of different romance plots, by the way. We've got a couple of different romance plots going on throughout the whole book. Like I said, Suitor Armor is like so compelling, so sweet. The art style is so cute. It's very much like that true, like almost like Throne of Glass medieval fantasy, like that you love with all of the creatures and things. I just like adore that like realm of fantasy, like that true fantasy. I just love it. I eat it up every single time. And I just need more episodes to get released immediately because I'm obsessed with Suitor Armor. Please go and read Suitor Armor. Let me know what you think. And if you've fallen in love with Lucia and Modius, I'm obsessed with them. I absolutely love it, love it, love it. And last but certainly not least, we have probably the most famous Webtoons comic of all time. And I'm not kidding. Like, this comic is known throughout the entire world. This comic is now being published in hardback and is one of the most popular Webtoons comics, like, of all time, about Greek gods and goddesses, like my favorite topic of all time. We have Lore Olympus. Lore Olympus. And I actually own volume 1 of the comic. I don't own any of the other volumes, but like I want to. Lore Olympus is essentially like a modern retelling of Hades and Persephone and like their story. And I am a sucker for Hades and Persephone. Anything Hades and Persephone related, I'm such a sucker for. I'll eat it up every time. I think it's like the most amazing thing.
It is my kryptonite.
To give you a quick plot summary of this comic, Lore Olympus is essentially about young Persephone. She's coming into herself. She's becoming a young adult. She's attending college, like in Olympus. She's joining up with friends like Artemis and like all these other gods who like live like in apartments like normal people and whatever. One night she goes to a party and she meets Hades there at this party, and they spark like a very strong connection. There's just like a lot of things that like come into play for their story. There's a lot of like tragedy and like a lot of trigger warnings for the series. Like they talk a lot about this in the book, like major trigger warnings for sexual assault and things like that. Like the comic has dealt with so much like trauma and therapy and like overcoming like things that have happened to you and like overcoming like trauma. Like it deals with a lot of that. It deals with like these Greek gods in like a totally new and modern way. Like Hades essentially like he's king of the underworld, but he essentially like works a corporate job. Like he's in these like tall buildings. The underworld is kind of this like, almost people make it seem like Vegas strip club vibes of like, it's very much like a dark and sadistic place, but it's really not. It's just like a city and like underworld citizens live there. Olympus is seen as this like high and almighty like place, and like the gods go visit the mortal realm and things like that. Like there's a lot of different relationship dynamics here. We've got mother and daughter relationships, romances, friendships, like siblings and like things like that. Like I think Rachel has created one of the greatest comics, and if not like one of the greatest comics of all time, without a doubt.
She's the GOAT. She's the GOAT, right? Which, if you know, stands for greatest of all time, right?
You just can't help but love Hades and Persephone. Their chemistry is automatic. Their love is so strong and so true. And if you're like me and you just love and live for Greek mythology retellings and Greek mythology things, like this is the series for you. The art, oh my gosh, the art, I could go on forever about how cute the art is and how much it's grown. Because we started in such like, oh, I wonder if it's even like in the book. Yes, like, oh my gosh, this is just an example of like where the art kind of starts. Like it starts in such like a like more cartoonish way. Like here's Hades, here's Persephone. And each of the gods is done like in colors, which I love. Like this is like Artemis is, let's see if you can even see it. Like Artemis is like purple, Apollo, her brother's purple. Like it starts more in this like cartoonish way, but then as the series goes on, like it just grows so much. Like the art style gets so much stronger. Like even in here, like you can kind of see where the art is growing and turning into this like new style that Rachel started. Like here's Hera, like in this like yellow, and then like obviously Poseidon, Hades. Like it's grown so much. It's less cartoon and a little bit more like realistic, but it's still like cartoon. But I just live for like the colors that she made all the different gods and goddesses. It's so fun and so interesting. This book series is like, it's like 280 episodes over like 3 seasons of like Lore Olympus. Like it's a lot to digest. And so I just usually tell people to like read it online, and then if you like it a lot, go get the hard copies. I just have the first volume. I want to get the other volumes, but like I'm telling you, it is one of the greatest webtoons comics like ever written. I think the greatest one ever written. Like I just am absolutely in love with it. I love where the story went. Lore Olympus quite literally just this week like finished up. Like it finished its last episode. It concluded. The story is now over, and like Rachel is done with Lore Olympus, and it like honestly broke my heart to like have the comic end because I just love it so much. I cannot believe it is over. Like this is years and years and years in the making. Like this woman has put in time into this book, and like I can't believe it's over and it's done. So this is a completed comic book series. So this one, all the other ones are not completed series. They're still going. There's still seasons more, but this one is a completed series. It is so incredible. It is so well written and like so fun to read and to look at. You just can't help but fall in love with Hades and Persephone. Like I just adore them. They're so wonderful. So 10 out of 10 recommend everyone go read Lore Olympus. So that is all the Webtoons comics I have to recommend for you guys today. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the Living Literature YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, like I said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was really different from the normal book content that we do on here, but I just wanted to do something different and like try it out and like see. Please leave comments down below if you end up reading these series or have read these comic book series. I'm absolutely obsessed with all of them. They're just some of the best like works that I've ever found online. If you have other recommendations of amazing series to read on Webtoons, please let me know. I would love to know. I'm always looking for new comics to read on Webtoons. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be leaving a link down below to all the descriptions and all the comics down below if you want to check them out. I'll be leaving a link and the description for all the people who wrote these comics and designed and created and like illustrated these comics. Amazing people, amazing work. Again, I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. I love you so much, and bye.